How likely is a U.S. recession? Is there a chance of us having a soft landing from everything that's going on right now? And what to do when you're stressed out about your investments. All that and more on today's episode of Elevate Your Wealth.
And now, Elevate Your Wealth with Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins.
Welcome into Elevate Your Wealth. Your hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. Elevated Financial Management, where you can find them right here in Seattle. Over 42 years combined experience between these two. They're certified financial fiduciaries. It's all about helping you get ready for your retirement. I'm Morgan Patrick, and each and every week we talk about the topics, latest articles, the hot news when it comes to retirement, things you need to know. And before we jump in, gentlemen, how was your week?
Really, really good, actually. We've had just fantastic weather here in Seattle. Missing that our Mariners are not in the playoffs right now, but still.
I don't know if I'll ever get over that.
I know. Yeah, that's a hard subject for us right now in our office.
Well, you could be a Braves fan, get in and say 2 games, goodbye.
Oh, that's rough. Yeah. Well, I mean, at least they were in.
Yeah, exactly.
True. Good point.
Same way with Houston. They're gone, and we're glad about that, too.
Yeah, I'm not real heartbroken about that one.
Yeah.
I'll be okay. I'll get over that one. Yeah. But, no, we're doing good. Yeah, things are going great around here. Kind of just plugging along, and we've had some really cool client stories. We'll try and tie some of those in today, talk about been some pretty cool things that have happened that we've been able to play a small part in somebody's story, which is always rewarding and fun for us, right? So, things are going really well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say again, Aji sushi restaurant, I'm just going to bring that up right now. I want to give them a big plug because their fish there is so good.
For those of you, because most of you can't, Morgan's the only one that can see us right now, right? If you could see the look on my face right now, it's like, get over the sushi place, man. Yeah, I'm sure it's good. But
I'm like, Mark, what did you do on break? Did you go to the NASCAR school of mentioning sponsors?
Man, like, good Lord.
I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
He is
You're going to give us a plug for Fig Newtons next week? Like, it's all right, man. Yeah. Come on now.
This retirement brought to you by Fig Newton.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all right.
Don't be making fun of my sushi.
Very filling, just like we can fill up your retirement. Let's go.
Yeah, I got some raw fish for you, baby.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Might be time to branch out.
That is
We'll
awesome.
get there.
That is awesome. Elevate Your Wealth. Again, Mark Stimpson, Casey Elkins, right here in Seattle. Want to give you a website. It's a great resource, efmnw.com. All letters and easy to remember, efmnw.com. Links to the TV show and, of course, radio show and podcast form there for you. And again, this is about getting you ready for retirement. Guys, you found some articles we're going to talk about today, and we're going to start off with this first one. Again, from Goldman Sachs, how likely is a U.S. recession? And you say the R word and you get people's attention.
Yeah, I think this is on everybody's mind, right? I mean, that's really what caught our attention. And there's, of course, different indicators and things to rely on, and we'll talk about some of those today. But I think realistically, the reason it's highlighted for us is just that we know people are thinking about it, and we understand why, right? We get it. It is kind of a hairy time. We're still in an election year. We'll see how that pans out. There's different reports for unemployment and things like that. So there is a lot to be concerned about. But I don't want to really take the approach of negativity with this. What I really want to do is just kind of talk about what can be done, right? I mean, we'll talk about the potential recession and things like that, right? It's not that we're just going to avoid the topic altogether, but really that's the goal of our show every single week, is to talk about what can be done, because we're always talking about the risks. We're always talking about the concerns that people have, but the key is what can be done about it. So we'll tie that back in. But when it comes to a recession, I mean, I think this article is interesting. It's a Goldman Sachs article, right? It says there's a 20% chance of a U.S. recession over the next 12 months, right? Which is a rather low percentage, but still something to be concerned about. And maybe it's not a recession that we have, but it doesn't mean necessarily that we're going to have a good 12 months ahead, right? So, there's a lot to be worried about, right, Mark?
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned this case. We want to focus on necessarily the recession itself and all the numbers. It's like, what can we do if we
Right.
do have a recession, right? That's the whole point. We want people to understand. We talk about the importance of a plan and working with someone that has your back. We don't want to, our clients are our friends. They truly are. And so if you've got a plan, we're going to be able to deal with the recession, right? Recessions happen. They come and go. They're not going to go away
Right.
Just because you think you've got a great portfolio and don't have to worry about stuff, right? But it's not. That's just the reality of this world. There's a lot of issues going on around the world, and like Casey mentioned, presidential election. But if you've got a solid plan, you're going to be able to weather that storm if it happens. And that's the key to everything, right? We've got to be able to deal with whatever conditions are thrown at us financially, right? And be able to have a course of action and not just, deal with decisions based on emotion. That's what can get us in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's really the big thing, right? Is when we talk about being positive with this, is that if you have a plan that is going to create that success for you, then the recession, it's not that it isn't scary. It's not that we don't care about it. It's not we just turn a blind eye to it. But we can be successful if we have a plan that allows us to pull different levers in different circumstances and secures what our income is going to be, right? If we are living and dying by what the market does and we have a recession, your income is going to take a hit, right? And so, again, it comes down to having a plan that accounts for these things because, as Mark mentioned, recessions do happen. There are downturns in the market. We can't control those things, but we can control whether or not we have a plan, and we can control what that plan looks like. There's no point, and we see this a lot with folks trying to control, not necessarily control the market, but trying to time the market, right? And that's kind of the same thing. You're trying to control how much of the market affects you, right? And you're trying to capture the growth, limit the downside, which we get. And on the surface level, that is a great idea. The problem is the execution, right? And we've seen that. I mean, we've seen that quite a bit where there's an advisor that we know that uses a stop loss, right? And so maybe for folks listening at home, maybe you've heard that term, maybe you haven't. And so what that means is, let's say your portfolio reaches a new high and then it loses 7%, and that's your stop loss. So you lose 7% from the top of your portfolio. Well, at that point, you move to cash, right? That you hit that 7% loss. That's the maximum amount of loss that you're comfortable with. So you move to cash. What that does is that in turn creates a time where you now have to figure out when to buy back into the market. So you're kind of forced into having to time the market. And we saw this happen in the last few years where an advisor was doing that. They lost their 7%. They bought back in, lost another 7%, and that story continued on. And so it's about creating ways to be successful without having the market. The market doesn't have to be successful for us to be successful, right? That's the key.
And what I'm hearing from both of you is the plan allows you not to panic, right?
Yep.
And then if you need to, you maneuver. I mean,
Right.
it's working with fiduciaries, knowing what the goals are, creating that roadmap, that plan to get you to those goals. And really, when things go up and down, you're less likely, you have the confidence in your plan. You're less likely to panic and make those poor decisions.
Yeah, active management can be really, really important. We talk about this all the time. When we do an analysis, in fact, we just did one with some longtime clients of mine, and they realize they've got some investments that they get a very low reward for the amount of risk that they're taking, right? And that's where helping to see, and everybody sits in our conference room says the same thing. Nobody's ever taken the time to show us anything like this. And they sat there and were just completely almost blown away to see this, with their own eyes. They go in and they he's given the portfolio and what do you want to do with this next week or next 6 months? But they've never seen an actual analysis done of their portfolio. And they were really incredibly enlightened, and it really opened their eyes for them to say, you know what, you need to be taking steps sometimes when assets move into a bad spot on the scatter plot or whatever, where we're looking at it, right? And you don't want to be just passive about it. And that's what helps with somebody that's really in this business.
I like the message. It's about the plan. It's about not panicking. It's about working with people that do this on a daily basis, and it's about the process. And if you're watching something every single day and you're watching the market go up and down, there's a good chance you're going to panic. But if you are working with a planner, if you're working with a fiduciary, and you have it mapped out and you know how it's going to go, you know that you're protected, you're less likely to make these poor decisions. Guys, we have spots. There are a lot of people out there that would love to come in and talk about this. So an opportunity for you right now, complimentary appointment. Mark, you're going to tell us how it's going to go, but again, you're leaving the checkbook at home.
Yeah, please. Maybe if you've saved at least $250,000 or more, and maybe you are worried about what's going on in the economy. Maybe you're worried about taxes. We have a great tax site that you can go to help figure out taxes as well, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But the bottom line is, let our team of certified financial planners put together a plan that's going to look at taxes. We're going to look at maybe the medical issues that you're dealing with as far as Medicare goes, the choices you have to make there. What about Social Security? When should you pull the lever on turning that on? So much more. So please leave the checkbook at home, as was just mentioned. Give us a call and let us put together a plan that you can hopefully create a very successful retirement plan.
This is your opportunity. Here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call now, get to the front of the line, grab one of these complimentary appointments, and come in and talk about your situation. Again, if you're worried about a recession, if you're currently in a plan, or if you need that second opinion, this is ideal for you. 866-668-3625. They're complimentary. 866-668-3625. We're back on the other side with more Elevate Your Wealth. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth, hosted by Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins, Elevated Financial Management. You can find them right here in Seattle. They've got 42 years combined experience between these two, again, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for the postseason, the retirement, the golden years. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, and each and every week it's always the importance of just being ready for retirement, having that plan, that roadmap. And we are hitting articles today that have caught the eye of both Mark and Casey. Now, you heard Mark mention we have an impressive website you need to check out, taxbillseattle.com. That's taxbillseattle.com. Casey, kind of walk us through. You guys said, you know what, we want to give our listeners, we want to give the people of Seattle a place they can go and really get some good numbers.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Morgan. This is a really cool website that will allow you to talk about or put in your information about your qualified retirement accounts. So your IRA, your 401k, 403b, 457. You can put in that information, your birthday, and what it'll do is it'll calculate what taxes are going to look like for you over the next 30 years. And then it'll show you, if you were to make some changes, how much you could save in taxes. And that's really the key because, we're retirement focused, as I think majority of our listeners know. That's what we're always talking about is retirement. And where have the majority of people saved for retirement? It's in a qualified type account, right? Which means that it's tax deferred. And so what that really means is that you have got a silent partner in your account with you called the IRS. And when you take money out, they're going to get their piece of that. They're going to tax that. There is no there's a limit on that tax deferral. So you have to start taking the money out for a required minimum distribution. You're going to have to start taking the money out at some point because you have to start paying taxes on it. Even though it's been tax deferred up to this point, you've got to take the money out and start paying taxes. And so with that, it's ideal to know what those taxes are going to look like, what can be done about them. And we are in a very specific window of time. Yeah. We are in possibly the best tax window that we're ever going to experience. And so we need to take advantage of it. And this is, again, where we're always focused on education. We're always focused on helping you understand better where you're at and then what you can do to be where you want to be. And this website will help you do just that, help you understand what those taxes are going to look like and how it's going to affect your retirement. And I know, Mark, there was something in a particular article that we were reviewing that you wanted to share as well.
Yeah, it's funny, we're on taxes now, and Jeff Bush had an interesting article, but I want to read this because I think our listeners need to understand this point. He said, if the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act goes away, which is, Trump's plan, right? It's going to sunset at the end of next year. The 24% bracket goes away. Now, I want to repeat that. So we know now we have 10, 12, 22, 24, and goes up, right? But if that 24% bracket goes away, listen to what he says. He goes, with the lion's share of income in that bracket going from 24 is going to jump up to 33%. And this is the bottom line. He goes on to say this. Advisors need to be talking with their clients about this, including business owners and retirees, whether more income subject to the 24% bracket can be pushed into, like this year, 24 and 25. But if the 24% bracket is eliminated, it could mean a 50% tax increase on earnings in later years. Now, I want to repeat that. If the 24% bracket goes away, very easily, people that are in that bracket now, which is a lot of where our clients are at, right?
Yeah.
The majority are sitting right in there, that their rate is going to jump up to 50%. Now, I don't know about you all, but I hope you're paying attention because that is a massive increase that I think a lot of people didn't know. That train is barreling toward us right now, and it's going to be hard to stop it.
Well, and we talk about it on a weekly basis about being proactive. And a great way to be proactive when it comes to your taxes is go to taxbillseattle.com and kind of get an idea of what the numbers could be and be ahead of it. Be proactive, as we often talk about.
Yeah, take the time, right? Take the time. And you know what? The best part about this is that this is a tool that you can access on your own. You don't need to call us. You don't need our input. And that was the whole point in creating this, was just so that folks could feel educated about this and understand what that potential benefit is. So take the time, use it. It's easy to use. It's very straightforward. It puts out a really nice little report that'll clearly explain what that looks like for your individual circumstance. And that's really the key, right? Is we don't get to make the rules. That's not the circumstance. We don't get to control what the market does. We don't get to control what the taxes are going to be. But we absolutely have control over whether or not we get a plan put together and make something positive for ourselves in the future. That's the part that we can't control. But it takes discipline, it takes effort, it takes time to want to do that and to be educated about it and actually put yourself in a spot where you can have a positive impact on your future. And all too often we see folks that really have done a nice job saving, right? We have folks that walk in our door every day that have saved $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 or $3 million, and they've done really well saving for retirement, but they're just contributing to their 401ks and they don't have any semblance of a plan before they talk with us, right? And that's the key, is you may have been a great saver up to this point, but there are things that you can do to do it better. There are things that you can do to make sure that your income is taken care of, that you minimize your taxes, that you put yourself in a better situation. You might be in a good situation, but maybe you could be in a better situation, right? And why would you not take the time to do that? And so this tool is kind of the first step in that direction.
I mean,
let me add just one thing to Casey, what he just mentioned here, I thought was so good. He says, we're paying, our clients, a lot of them are paying the CPAs to lower their taxes, right? Mm-hmm. But what I love what he said here, however, it's truly a value add opportunity for our industry to guide our clients to a better after-tax outcome.
Right.
Okay. The CPAs are helping us. They're looking through the tax window, right through the rear view mirror. We want to look at it through the windshield. How can we help our clients lower taxes for the next several years, not just what happened on paper, 12 months ago, right? That's really what so many people are missing the boat with their CPA. They're not getting enough help. How can I really lessen my tax liability over time that can be ginormous if you start planning early versus later?
And there's kind of a sense of urgency, as Casey's mentioned. Mark, you've talked about it too. The window's closing.
Yeah.
An opportunity to really get on this, and you've got maybe a little over a year to be proactive when it comes to your taxes. So again, taxbillseattle.com, great place to go. You can sit there in your PJs and check out your numbers, and there's no pressure. And then if you've got questions, you can grab one of the complimentary appointments and see how you're doing. Again, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call this number and get to the front of the line. Secure one of these appointments. Come in to Elevated Financial Management and meet with the team. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. So the second article, and we'll probably carry this over into our next segment because we're kind of up against it, but record U.S. household wealth. And I love the fact that you guys have taken a lot of articles and taken a look at the positive side of this. Record U.S. household wealth may increase the chance of a soft landing. So we're being on the positive side of this. We're seeing some record numbers.
Yeah, it's actually pretty interesting, and we're not going to share like all these statistics that are here, all these numbers that are here, because that might be kind of boring, right? But there is a couple things that I think are interesting. Federal Reserve figures last week showed that increases in home prices and the stock market lifted households' net worth in the second quarter by $2.8 trillion to a record $163.8 trillion. That's surprising, right? I mean, because there's been a lot going on. There's been a lot of negativity talked about. There's turmoil because of the election, as we've already mentioned. So I thought that was interesting. And then I'll mention one more kind of set of numbers here. It says overall household net worth soared by nearly $47 trillion from the pre-pandemic peak less than 5 years ago.
Wow.
Those are massive numbers. Those are massive numbers, right? And again, I think to tie this kind of back in with the overall picture, this is all great news, right? That's a good thing that hopefully that will increase the chance of a soft landing and we don't have this big recession and those kinds of things. But if net worth is going up, does that necessarily mean that more people are putting plans together for their future, right? And that's really the case, right? You can have a higher net worth than you did a few years ago, but if that's happening because you're a good saver, great move, right? But there's other things that need to come with that. There's many other pieces that make up a plan.
Additional steps. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mark.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to just say that this article does have an interesting little tidbit. It says, in the U.S., 25% of all assets are held by 1% of the population. Mm-hmm. So that's a staggering number when you think about it,
crazy.
right? The upper echelon, that's really who holds the bulk of the wealth.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
So it's important, folks, to kind of get on the same page with your money, be ready for retirement, have that plan put together. We've got an opportunity for you to come in and talk with Elevated Financial Management, and this is an opportunity that comes at no cost. Casey, talk about those appointments.
Yeah, so this is your opportunity to get a written financial plan, a plan that will make you successful despite what's happening, right? Something that can make you successful despite an overall recession and can give you confidence to move forward in your retirement and make sure that you can continue to live the same lifestyle. So this is your opportunity to get a written financial plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. We'll talk about the risk that you're taking. We'll talk about what the taxes might look like for you. How do you make sure that your income is taken care of well into the future and that you can continue to live that same lifestyle? So don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call.
All right, here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Complimentary appointments. If you save $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call now. Secure the appointment, 866-668-3625. They are complimentary. When we return on Elevate Your Wealth, the worst thing you can tell stressed out clients? Well, I'm interested because a lot of people are stressed. We are back on Elevate Your Wealth, Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. That's where you can find our hosts, Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. And between the two, 42 years combined experience in the retirement planning business. They are certified financial fiduciaries. Wonderful resource website. I'll give it to you, efmnw.com. That's all letters, efmnw.com. Again, TV show links, radio show and podcast form. Great information there. A great place to kick the tires. We already told you about today. If you've got any tax questions, you want to plug your numbers in, they've got a wonderful site for you, taxbillseattle.com. That's taxbillseattle.com. It's that time of year. Go to taxbillseattle.com and find out what your numbers are. So, guys, we're hitting the articles and we're having some fun with this. We've got the positive side of things going, which is good because there's a lot of negativity out there. But here's one that starts off on the negative side, but you got some great examples for us. The worst thing you can tell stressed out clients. Now, this one from Beverly Flaxington. Now, this is something where, I mean, we're talking about money. There are a lot of people that are stressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is something that people are very concerned. Like we mentioned, we know the election is coming out. We know there's been volatility in the market, but we also know the Dow has hit all-time record highs, right? But one of the things that so many advisors don't really think about is think about the emotional toll that it takes on our clients. And if we just try and solve their emotional issues by just showing them graphs and charts and what, hopefully the market's going to do, and that really isn't going to touch them on an emotional level. And we've got to be able to, and we talk about this all the time, we've got to back them off the ledge a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they want to jump off and we've got to hold them, right? And there's some ways to do that. But we just want our listeners to understand we do look at this a little differently. Emotions matter, and we're not going to just tell you, oh, don't worry about it, it'll be okay. Anybody can say that, right? But there's a lot more to doing this. And I think we're going to actually talk about a case here where this was a little bit of the issue. And you thought of a recent one, right, Case?
Yeah, I did. Actually, before we jump into that, I just want to highlight something that the article says that I thought was pretty interesting. It says advisors often answer a client's emotional concern with facts, data, and proof the person shouldn't be worried. This doesn't often work very well. If someone is emotional, showing them why they are wrong typically backfires. Logic never wins when someone is worried. I'll tell on myself a little bit here. You can ask my wife. I'm probably guilty of that, right? And I think we probably all are to some extent, right? Because that logic just seems to make so much sense, right? But when you're frantic, when you're emotional, right? When all those things are happening, that logic doesn't mean anything, right? And so this article is interesting because this article is really written for advisors, but It was something that we found that we thought was really valuable because folks do need to be reassured, right? And a lot of that comes down to having a plan and those kinds of things. And the numbers back up all of that. But there's more to it than just the facts and figures. And being finance guys, I go straight to the numbers, right? Because that's what I do, right? That makes sense
every day.
Yeah, exactly, right? But the emotion behind it is really, really important because the key here is that you may have saved the money and you may be focused on growth and you've been building for 40 years for your retirement. But the reality is that even though it's numbers and it's math and it's finance, that's still a very emotional thing, right? You saved that to live your golden years. You saved that nest egg to live a certain lifestyle. Those are all emotional goals. So the finance of it supports the emotion, and so we have to make sure that we don't want to separate our emotion from our finances completely. There are times where that's valuable, but ultimately, you save that money to live your life, and you got to find a way to do that.
Well, we've talked about this before on the program. It's almost like, and I think this is a wonderful point, and I love the fact that the article's kind of directed at advisors. It's almost like you have to realize, yes, you do this every day, but the person sitting across the desk from you does not.
Exactly.
And you have to hit the reset button and understand that it's a whole nother puzzle in front of you now. And you have to be sensitive and compassionate to what they're going through. And I can see how advisors around the country might just get into the numbers game and plug the numbers in and keep going and keep going and set the appointments and go. But you got to realize there are real emotions sitting across the table.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's probably easier to just talk about the numbers too, right? I mean, it is, right? Because I can just show you, here, let me pull out this calculator and everything's going to be good, right? I mean, that's probably an easier conversation. But to the point that Mark brought up earlier, we were kind of reviewing this, and we always try to make sure that we're bringing out new things for our listeners and stuff. And so there was a particular client that comes to mind, and but before meeting us, they had been kind of doing things on their own. They were do-it-yourselfers to some extent. And we've had good years in the market last 14 years or so. I mean, things have gone well. And in this individual circumstance, they had not all of their holdings, but for the husband, he had the majority of his investments in one individual stock. And that stock has not done well, and it has continued to not do well, to the effect that they lost almost 50% of their total investment, right?
Yeah.
And so when they came into us for the first time, us meeting them, they were definitively stressed out, right? Because they're on the cusp of retirement. I mean, they're 3 years away, and the other one's maybe 4 years away. And so they were beside themselves, and we understand why, right? And it's on us to explore that with them and talk about that. And then it's on us to help solve that problem and figure out how we avoid that type of thing in the future. And that's what we were able to do. We were able to help them and show them a way that they could still be successful in retirement. But the reality is, lessons learned, right? The reality is that their retirement is not going to look like what it could have if that hadn't happened, right? Their lifestyle is having to take a hit from what it could have been because of that particular circumstance. And so, again, it's about having a plan. Diversification's got to be part of that plan. Income has got to be part of that plan, right? And so a second set of eyes really does go a long way.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, I'd like to add to that. We know our clients are stressed a little bit, and this article does such a good job. It says, help your clients to de-stress by offering a workshop, a webinar, or some other type of support. And I think anybody that's listened for any amount of time to our show, that's why we teach. We teach out of Green River, Highline, Bellevue Community College. We're always in an education mode. Same way on radio, television. We're trying to educate, and that can go a long way to helping someone also realize there's somebody that hopefully is making them feel like they matter, right? That's what it is. That's when we listen in the right way, we're going to show that person that they matter to us, and we're going to help them to deal with the emotions, because we all have them, like Casey mentioned. But there's a way to do it in the right way and to be kind. But we also want them to know that, hey, they got an expert in their corner that's going to be able to help them if they're willing to allow that, right? That's what this is all about. It's helping our clients to not do and make decisions always based on emotion, right? But emotion will win out a lot of the time. So we've got to help our clients to deal with that in the right way.
Yeah, I mean, you can calm the room down. You can have a conversation. You can have a meeting. You can revisit portfolios. You can take a look at plans. Just because you have a plan with Elevated Financial Management, that doesn't mean that they've gone over to the granite and they've chiseled it in there. I mean, it's about evolving. It is your retirement. It's about being comfortable with the path that you're taking, but also be aware that you can change the path if needed. Now, an opportunity to get on the calendar with Elevated Financial Management, it's ongoing during the course of this show, and these appointments are complimentary, and all you've got to do is call 866-668-3625. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you, but these are complimentary. You're leaving the checkbook at home. You're getting some peace of mind, some confidence as you move to and through your retirement. 866-668-3625. And if you grab an appointment, you're not agreeing to be a client. You're agreeing to meet Mark and Casey and their team and see if it's a good fit, right? You could need a second opinion. You may need just to get started with the planning process, or at least get an idea of what it's going to take. That's what these appointments are for. 866-668-3625. So back to this article, guys. And again, the worst thing you can tell a stressed out client. I love the example. And it screams to our listeners that, look, if you're in a similar scenario where maybe you're top heavy in your portfolio, now's the time to really take a look at it.
Yeah, this is right. This is the time to check it out. And if you feel that sense of concern, I mean, that's that's why we're here, right? That's why we offer the phone number and offer the opportunity to come talk. If you're feeling that sense of stress, if you feel like there's something impending, right? There's something coming and you don't know what that is, or that there's things that you're concerned about that you don't know to be concerned about, right? I think that's the biggest thing. As a matter of fact, we had folks come in the other day, and I really appreciated what the wife said. She said, I need to know what I don't know, right? And that's, I mean, I think we all feel that way, but she put it into words and she said, that's it. I'm concerned about the things that I don't know to be concerned about. And to your point, what you mentioned earlier, Morgan, for us, maybe, we get really comfortable with these types of conversations because this is what we do all day, right? I mean, we have folks coming in and out of our office all day long that we help. And so us, it just seems like another Tuesday, right? But for them, it's their one individual circumstance. This is their first time. They haven't dealt with this before. And it's up to us to be good listeners and be good planners, right? So it takes both. It's not just one-sided.
I'd like to add just one thing. We just had a conversation about this today with a client that she thought on our last conversation that her reduction in Social Security was only going to be them by themselves, not everybody in general that's on Social Security on this reduction coming. So again, sometimes even clients don't hear it correct on what was said. So we want to continue to educate and help our clients so they don't get this messed up.
Right.
All right, well, Mark, let's keep it rolling. We've got the appointments. They're available right now. Walk us through how these appointments are going to go.
Yeah, so please, if you're worried about Social Security, you've saved at least $250,000 or more. Maybe you don't know what taxes are going to be like when the election is over. Or what about Medicare? What about life insurance? Do I want to pass money on to my children? Please pick up the phone and let our team of certified financial planners put together a plan for you that's going to help you to have a successful retirement. So please pick up the phone and give us a call.
All right, here's the phone number, 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Again, if you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. These are complimentary appointments. Get to know Elevated Financial Management, Mark, Casey, and their team. And again, you're not promising to be a client. This is information. This is confidence as you move forward to your retirement date, 866-668-3625. When we return, we're going to continue our conversation about the worst thing you can tell a stressed out client, because we've got some good ones here. We're also going to get to some scenarios. We want to throw those at the fellas, see how they do. That's all coming up next on Elevate Your Wealth. Welcome back into Elevate Your Wealth, again powered by Elevated Financial Management right here in Seattle. Your hosts are Mark Stimpson and Casey Elkins. They got 42 years combined experience in this business, the retirement planning business, helping hundreds of their clients get ready for said retirement. They're certified financial fiduciaries. I'm Morgan Patrick, and again, I get to listen in to these conversations, sometimes be referee. But again, it's all about information. It's about knowledge when it comes to your retirement. And we've been hitting articles today, and the last one we've been talking about is the worst thing you can tell a stressed out client. And this article, as pointed out by the fellas, is more directed at the advisor group that's out there, things that you need to be aware of. And I really wanted to get to the final two in this article, and the importance of learning to listen. Learning to listen, because I feel like when you hear just the stories that are out there, people just get bombarded with what they should be doing and where their money should be, percentages, numbers, this, number that. How important is it for the advisor to sit and actually not talk and listen?
Yeah, that is one of the most important things, right? That is one of the most important pieces of our job. We have to be good planners, right? I can't take that away. You got to be a good planner. You've got to know all the financial tools, all those things. But the reality is, and we talk about this a lot, we're agnostic when it comes to the investment. I don't care what it is. What I care about is solving a problem that you have. And for me to figure out what concerns you have, what holes there might be in your plan, all those kinds of things requires me to listen, right? That's really the key. And I thought this was really cool from the article. It says, learning to listen is the biggest gift you can give. I thought that was pretty it made me pause for a second to think about, right? Because that's it. I mean, when somebody is concerned about all these things, and we're talking about something that's deeply personal, right? I mean, your finances, there are people that have friends that they've known for 10 or 15 or 20 years, and their friends don't know their finances, right? And so this is a very personal conversation. So it requires us to listen well, to have true emotion when we're listening, and to be understanding and all those things. And so it requires us to take a breath, to not be thinking about our other clients in that moment, to not be thinking about what's happening in the market in that moment or how the business is running, all those things. We have got to be in the moment with the client, understanding where they're at and what can be done to improve that.
Yeah, there's a really good thought to go in line with that case, where even if we think we're listening, and there's different studies have been done on this, but we may need to be writing down, jotting things down in this conversation, because the key to being a truly good listener is we are able to repeat back pretty much what they said to them, right? And sometimes if we're not jotting something down, it could be easy to miss something that could be really important to them. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was such a key thought too. Be willing to maybe take some notes as they're sharing they're basically sharing their innards with us, right? That's what they're doing. So we need to show them that they matter. And by being a good listener, that's going to help us.
Well, and guys, think about the step what it took to get them in front of you. I mean, if they're coming to your office and they're talking about their future and their money, that's a huge step for them. And it's one that took a lot of thought. They've gone ahead and gone through the vetting process, which we welcome you to do with Elevated Financial Management. In bringing the expertise, bringing the knowledge when it comes to retirement planning, as Mark, as you mentioned earlier in the show, the webinars, the fact that you have these educational pieces where they can come out and they can sit and they can long form and watch and listen, and then get together and talk about, their situation with you. That's where the weight of this is. There's so many people out there trying to do what you guys do. But the way you do it, the scope that you do it, the way that the education piece is such an important factor, I mean, that carries a lot of weight.
It does, yeah. And as a matter of fact, for those workshops like you were talking about, Morgan, for those that are listening, if you go to our website, efmnw.com, that's efmnw.com, you can see the workshops that are scheduled, and they're free to attend, right? I mean, we teach those at the local colleges, as we've talked about before, and some other venues locally as well. But the dates and times are on there, the registration link, so you can make sure that you've got a seat there. And that's really important, right? Because it is that education that will help people solve that emotional piece, right? That uneasy feeling. Listening is very important, as we've discussed. The numbers are still important, right? Because we can't take that away. You've got to still have a plan that creates that success. But ultimately, it's education about your individual circumstance, where you're at, and then what can be done to improve that, what tools are out there, all those kinds of things. And so we want to be careful by not using too many facts and figures and Excel spreadsheets and all those kinds of things, right? Mm-hmm. But that still is an important piece, because that is part of the education. And so, that's really where we come in, is to help with that and help people feel empowered about their finances and about what their future looks like.
All right. So again, the website, webinars are there. You can sign up. They are complimentary. They're free. efmnw.com. Again, easy to remember, all letters, efmnw.com. Again, check out the webinars and sign up and educate yourself when it comes to retirement. All right, gentlemen, the opportunity to get on your calendar, it's ongoing during the course of this show. They're complimentary appointments. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. How do you get to the front of the line? How do you grab one of these appointments? You call this number right now, 866-668-3625. The number again, 866-668-3625. All right, scenarios. I'm going to throw the first one at Casey. Mark, you jump in too. Here it is. How should an individual retirement account be managed? Allow it to accumulate wealth and then pay taxes on withdrawals in retirement, or transfer possibly to a Roth IRA? Should I pay my taxes now and receive my money tax-free later? So there are a number of questions here. And can the taxes owed on a rollover be deducted directly from the rollover account itself?
That's a lot of questions.
It is.
Yeah.
We need more info.
Yeah. I would say that sounds like somebody who's worried about their finances when you're
Little bit.
when you're rapid firing questions like that, right? And you know what? All good questions, right? So how do you manage an IRA? It's circumstantial, right? I mean, it really does depend on what you're comfortable with, what the goal is for the money,
your age.
There's a lot of details to that. So it's not a one size fits all, but there are different ways to go about managing an IRA. And then do you allow it to accumulate wealth and then pay taxes on withdrawals? Or should you transfer it to a Roth IRA? I don't think that in the future you'll ever look back and regret having tax-free money, right? I don't think that's ever going to be a circumstance. I think that you would probably look back and be happy that you converted to Roth and be happy that you chose to pay taxes in the past when taxes were at a lower rate and things like that. But you do have to bite the bullet to do that, because that means dealing with a little bit of the pain right now instead of kicking that can down the road. And in addition to that, does that necessarily make the most sense in every circumstance? It does in a lot, but it doesn't necessarily in every circumstance. There are those that will be in lower tax brackets in retirement. And so that's something to consider, right? In your individual circumstance, what does that look like for you down the road? But the unknown with that is, what are taxes going to be like? What will the tax brackets be then? So based on today's tax brackets, you might be in a lower tax bracket in the future. But what about tomorrow's tax brackets, and 5 years from now tax brackets, and 10 years from now, right? When you consider the debt load of the country and things like that. So it's important to think about those. And there might be a couple other questions with that overall scenario that I didn't answer. But I will say that a lot of those questions are kind of specific circumstantial questions, right? Where it's really about knowing more details about you as an individual and then figuring out those questions based on your circumstances.
Did you answer the one about using qualified funds? Because that one is a pretty good part of this. Using whether you should pay the tax out of that qualified account. Normally, we would tell that client, no, you'd want to use non-qualified dollars or after-tax dollars to pay that if at all possible, right? Because if you take it out of that account...
You're talking about a Roth conversion.
Right.
Yeah. So that for a Roth conversion, right? Yeah, you would want to pay that with other funds. I think the question was about a rollover, which that's a little different scenario. But go ahead with the Roth conversion stuff.
I was just going to say, if you are considering doing a Roth conversion, which we believe that's a really good thing to do right now, if you have the ability to use money that's not part of the qualified plan to pay the tax, we believe that's a lot better strategy to do it that way. So that's just something I want to quickly bring up.
Sure.
We are in the middle of scenarios. Got time for one more. Mark, we'll start with you on this one. So here it is. I was terminated by my employer. The paperwork they sent me said a 10% penalty for an early 401k withdrawal would be waived for payments made after separation of service if you turn 55 during that year. This might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. I don't understand it. What can I do to avoid that penalty if I don't turn 55 until 2026?
Well, most plans we've ever looked at, the 55% rule does matter upon a distribution, but if you've been terminated from service, you're going to be allowed to roll that plan to any other custodian. You don't have to worry about being 55 necessarily. So again, there's more information that we would need, but I would tell you don't worry too much about that. If you've left the company, you're going to be allowed to roll that into another qualified plan, which for us is almost always going to be an IRA.
Okay, it's offer time. We're going to open up these appointments. They are complimentary. Casey, I think you've got it. What's going to happen for the next callers?
Well, for those of you that have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, and you want either a second opinion or you want to get a plan in writing to figure out what this is all going to look like, or maybe you're just looking for the assurance that you can actually retire, right? That's the big question. We see a lot of people bump into that. They've saved the money, but they don't know how to spend it. They don't know how to deal with taxes. They don't know how to make the money last in retirement. That's who this is for. So this is your opportunity to get a written plan put together by our team of certified financial planners. We'll talk about what the taxes are going to look like, how to fight inflation, how to create reliable, sustainable income. We'll talk about the risks that you're currently taking, and we'll help you feel educated so you can understand those concerns and those potholes that are out there that maybe you haven't been through before, those blind spots, if you will, to help give you the confidence that you need to actually pull the trigger to retire and to go live the retirement years, the lifestyle that you've been dreaming of, and actually take advantage and put those dollars to use in your life. So don't hesitate. Pick up the phone. Give us a call now.
However you want to describe it, peace of mind, ease of mind, being able to exhale, having confidence as you move towards retirement. This is your opportunity to start down that path or get a second opinion. If you've saved $250,000 or more towards your retirement, these strategies are going to work best for you. Call this number now, get to the front of the line, secure one of these appointments. Again, you're leaving the checkbook at home. 866-668-3625. That's 866-668-3625. Another edition of Elevate Your Wealth is in the books. For Casey and Mark, I'm Morgan. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Investment advisory services offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in states where it is properly registered or excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. All rights reserved.